where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their road toward publication.
Journey.
Okay, I am Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write Christian historical romance, and I clearly don't talk well.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write in multiple genres, including Christian dystopian fiction.
I'm Jamie Hirschberger, and I write in multiple genres under the pen name J.R. Nichols. And I want to know what Jennifer was going to say. We are what? Totally discombobulated today?
Yes.
It's a crazy day, isn't it?
That's one of my favorite words, by the way, discombobulated.
And shenanigans.
Shenanigizing.
And if the woman who has a background in being a radio DJ can't speak, we're all doomed.
Well, she's got the tech card down, so yay!
Yeah. I also have my bachelor's is in communication, so there's a problem there as well.
We're all in trouble.
Yeah. Oh, ladies. So thank you, everyone. I can see the chat is like going already, and I'm sorry. We'll get over there in just a second. But this is a part of our show where we start off and we kind of update you on what's been going on. We call it our What's Up. And I am going to throw it to Tina just so I can stop talking. So Tina, what's up with you?
Well, I went to my cousin's wedding this weekend in Indiana and had a great time. And I found out my cousin was an editor before he retired.
Oh.
So I'm a little excited about that. So that was fun. And then this weekend, my son James is staying here for the weekend with his daughter Athena, my granddaughter.
Aww.
My favorite granddaughter.
You can say that now.
My only grandchild right now. And it's his birthday tomorrow, so I'm not sure like exactly. Maybe I'll just cook him a nice meal. But yeah, so just, life. What about you, Jamie?
I don't know. It seemed like I had something really fun or clever to share with the What's Up, but essentially life is just kind of chugging along. I mean, it's fall in the South, so you know what that means. Nothing. It's hot weather. It's hot weather with pumpkins in the bins when you walk into Walmart and like all this fall decor. And it's really bizarre because it's the time of year when you expect to step outside and feel that brisk, shivery air, and you don't. It's just still a curtain of humidity, which is fine. I'm really not complaining, I promise. But it's just very weird when you grow up. Yeah, you grow up you grow up your whole life in the Midwest, and you get the changes of seasons. And when you're adapting or adjusting to a new reality, it just takes a while for your brain to kind of catch up. So, but it has been just gorgeous early in the morning and after the sun goes down. It's that time of year when you really want to be outside. So, I suppose if I'm going to say what's up with me, that's what I'm going to stick with. What about you, Jen? What's up with you?
Well, kind of more of the same what we talked about last week as far as, my aunt is progressively getting worse. And so I just basically everything besides my children has been put on hold, including my writing career, and just spending time with her. But she's out of the hospital. She's in a rehab facility that we are pretty pleased with so far. So I covet your prayers for her as well. So yeah. So Robin says in the chat's very lively already. What's up is that we no longer have a moat around the house. Yay! It's been going on for a while for her. I've been working with the loud, crazy machinery right outside my office windows, and everyone in my life is getting puppies, and that's the worst. My girl
I have
just
no
said
desire for a puppy. I want bunnies. I want all the bunnies. I want the giant bunnies. I want the tiny bunnies.
Maria says she thought I'd have to miss out today. So glad I can make it. We're glad you're here too, Maria.
Yeah,
because I know Fridays are not as easy for you. So today's topic, we're going to slide right into that here because we have a new person in chat. Barbara Worley says, I saw the email just in the nick of time. Hello.
Oh, great. Hi,
so
Barbara.
Welcome, Barbara. This week we did get some mail. I had not been checking it, and I apologize, and life has been crazy, but we did get a couple letters this week, and one of them was from Barbara, and I was going to read that actually today. So she says, I just found you guys and love your podcast video stuff. Thank you, Barbara. So
Yay.
so helpful. I was I'm going to I hope I shouldn't care. I'm not going to say how old she is. She just started writing. So she's not a young person. She's not in her 20s. I'm just going to say that. None of us are. And she's just started writing something, anything. If it kills me, it's finally time. Agreed. We all felt like that when we finally started to sit down, right? Her genre, my genre will be female amateur sleuth novel. I have my story, characters, etc., forming up nicely, but I was curious what your thoughts are on using a pseudonym. I am batting the idea around and would like to hear from others why or why not they took a pen name. If you have already covered this, nope, we have not covered it. So today, as soon as I got your email, I actually shot a message out to the other ladies and thought this might be something good for us to talk about. I'm sorry, let's backtrack. Rhonda's not here. I forgot to mention that. In case you guys notice, she's not here today. But in our hearts.
Yes, we love Rhonda.
She's in our hearts. I miss you guys. Jen, I miss you so much. So, okay. She's going to kill me when I see her in person. Okay, so let's talk about pen names. First of all, what is a pen name?
Well, first of all, if you can say nom de plume in the correct French accent, then you should totally do that instead, in my opinion. I cannot. So I am forced to say pen name. And so what is it? It is a name that you choose to be your publishing name as opposed to using your real name.
As simple as that. Pseudonym is another good word. That's what the word that Barbara used. I've always called it pen names as well. Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth between a bunch of different things here. I thought, we've all talked about this. Some of us have chosen to do pen names. Some of us have not. There are reasons to use a pen name and reasons not to. So I thought maybe we should talk about some reasons. We'll start off with the reasons you should use a pen name. So would you guys want to throw any ideas out there why you should? In any order.
Maybe you don't like your real name.
There you go.
Yeah. Or it's like hard to spell.
Right.
Or hard to remember.
I put this in our notes and Jamie laughed at it. There's an LOL there from her, but I honestly can't imagine that Engelbert Humperdinck liked his name growing up.
Okay, do you want to know what?
What? Is it not his real name?
It is not his real name.
Oh, darn it.
Why would you? I know. His manager made him use that name.
Why? Why would you choose that name?
Engelbert Humperdinck? Like, I have no idea.
Well, it is very memorable.
My mom loved him growing up. And as a kid, I was always like, because first of all, the name, I didn't even care what he looked like. I didn't care how he sounded when he sang the name, like didn't even understand it. So
I can't believe your brother's name isn't Engelbert.
I know, right? No, he's got my brother's name is William, which is a family name. Like I have a ton of cousins named William. And so somebody made the remark, well, we'll just call him Willie. And my mom's like, So now my brother was named Chip. Like his name is William, but he's Chip. That's what we've always called him. So.
That's great. Chip off the old block.
He sure is.
Well,
right.
and I guess if you had like a really common name too, like if your name was John Smith or Jenny Brown or something like that, and it just, you feel like you would be lost in a sea of Jennifer Brown or Mary Smiths or whatever.
Right, exactly. I've seen people that are writers that will have like a name like that, like John Smith, and they put a middle initial in. I don't know if that really helps, but yeah, I agree with you. That's another good reason.
Yeah, or if you have a name of an already famous person, you would like if you were Stephen King or Donald Trump, you definitely want to change.
Did you hear there was another Stephen King?
Did he try to be a writer?
Yes, as an author. I'm trying to think. Now, this is way back when I first started writing that I read this article. But I think he ended up getting like a letter from Stephen King's lawyer because he was writing the same genre, and it was the guy's real name. But it was kind of one of those things that like you don't own your name, but if you're Stephen King, you kind of own your name. You know,
like when does it become a trademark? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Especially in that genre. I mean, if he was trying to write romance maybe or nonfiction, it might have worked, but I wouldn't want that anyway. I wouldn't want people to confuse me. And that was the other thing too. The reason that Stephen King found out was because people saw the book and thought it was the Stephen King. So they bought the book and found out that it wasn't, and they were slamming the guy in his reviews. He was getting terrible reviews because people were angry that they thought he was misrepresenting himself. So yeah, so again, and if your name's
So
Donald
call
Trump,
yourself Steve.
yeah. I think there's probably only one Donald. No, there's two Donald Trumps, right? His son is Don. I forgot. There's only two Donald Trumps in the world.
And what was his dad's name? I almost feel like his dad or his grandpa or something was also a Donald, but
Probably.
I could be completely wrong. It's been known to happen
Right.
occasionally.
I also think if you write in multiple genres, we're going to talk later about our own 3 experiences with pen names, but just quickly for me, like I have some nonfiction ideas that I'm throwing around, and I will write under a different name, a related name. I'll talk about that later, because you don't want your also bots and the algorithms on Amazon to get confused. I don't want people that read my Christian romance to pick up a book that's for authors if they're not an author. So that would be another reason. If you write,
or vice versa.
Right. Or what if you wrote like children's books and then you also wrote steamy romance? Like you wouldn't want a kid to pick up one of your steamy romance. I'm kind of guessing if you're watching this podcast that that's not a problem, but it's something to consider if you write. Or what about like gritty crime? You can write Christian gritty crime, but it would still not be appropriate for children. So things like that you'd have to consider. That would probably be a good idea to have a pen name for at least one of your genres.
Should we talk about the lady that I met that said she wrote Christian fiction and erotica?
We both met her, right? The same one, right?
Yes. I was just like I don't even know how you reconcile those two things, but you would definitely have to have a pen name.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I guess to put it in a more tactful way, you're trying to divide your audience, and that's a handy way to do it, because nobody is going to mistake let's say you pick Marianne Rose to be your, one genre pen name, and you pick like something else, John Clift, to be your other genre name. And then that way people are not going to confuse at all what you're writing and what to expect when they pick up the book, because just like Stephen King, eventually an author name can become a brand.
Exactly. Right. And that kind of, speaking of genres too, I've also read that people have chosen pen names because the genre they wrote in, people won't buy from either a male or a female. Like there are men that write romance, but women tend to not think that's a good thing. Like, I don't know that I would automatically think, oh, a man wrote this. I can't wait to read this romance. So
I didn't know this was a thing, but supposedly sci-fi is the same way. Like I've read around that's like that people want men to write their sci-fi. Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know. I've read that as well. And action thriller, it's people don't expect to be a woman. So you'll see a lot of authors that will just do their initials so that they're kind of ambiguous and you don't know. So, all right. Any other reasons why you think a person should choose a pen name?
Personal. You want to keep your personal life private or separate from your writing?
Yeah, that's a big one. I think that is the biggest concern for people that are just beginning their writing career. It was mine. Because I have small children, and I was concerned that there would be crazies out there and they would somehow, track me down. And we mentioned before that I was in radio, and I did, when I lived in Boston, I used my real name on the radio and no issues, because Boston is huge. Like, to track somebody down that doesn't have their phone number listed in Boston is, especially back then, is rather ridiculous. Then I moved back home and worked at a radio station, and almost immediately had a crazy that was trying. And luckily my name is spelled different. Like, it was before I was married. And so Carl, this gentleman was looking up every version of Carl he could to try to find me, because he told me this on the phone when he called in one night.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah. There's a whole long story. That's a whole nother episode. That's really like an after.
Oh yes. We all want that episode.
So anyway, I really and truly thought about using a pen name because I was concerned about that. But we'll talk about why I didn't do that later on. But some people just want their private, like, even if you don't have children, you just want to have your writing separate from your personal life, and that's a choice.
I think that a pen name also can sort of serve like a costume. Did you ever notice how well, maybe this is just me, but how uninhibited people become when they put on a mask or a costume. You suddenly are a different person. You're maybe a little more brave. You're a little more bold. And then anybody who doesn't like what you write, it feels like less of a personal rejection because you're not Jamie Hirschberger, you're, Penelope Muffin Top or whatever you pick for your pen name. And so if people are criticizing Penelope Muffin Top, it feels a little bit removed from you personally. So that might be another reason someone might choose a pen name.
That's so funny because when we were talking about Engelbert Humperdinck, I was going to say, or Jennifer Higginbottom. Not Jennifer, Penelope. I was going to use that name.
Were you?
Yeah, Penelope Higginbottom.
I like the word Penelope because if you write it down, it looks like Penelope. Anyway, bunny trail.
But Higginbottom. I could tease you so bad if that was your real name. So I don't think you should use that one.
It's better than Muffin Top.
That's true. All right, ladies, I do see there's chat going on. A lot of it, people are sharing like their choices, and I'm going to save. We'll share some of that chat later when we get to our choices. I want us to go through the pros and cons first. So don't think we're ignoring you. We're just saving that gold for later.
Oh, yes, because I know that a couple of our regular listeners do use pen names. I've been really curious to hear what they have to say about their decisions. So awesome. I'm glad they're chiming in.
All right, so let's go back now to reasons why you would not use a pen name. Can you ladies think of any reason why a person should not use a pen name?
Well, it can be difficult on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into a problem because my Facebook, my personal Facebook, I go by the name Tina in real life, so my personal Facebook is Tina Catane. But my author page is Christina Catane, and so I wanted to connect my Instagram to my author page, and it took me a long time to figure out how to bypass Tina Catane and connect it to Christina Catane.
And recently, within the past year, Instagram has made improvements in that area. So I struggled a little bit too. It was kind of not an easy task at the very beginning, but like it's gotten a lot easier for people. Yeah. Any other ideas?
Well,
let's talk about social media one more time before I forget. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I have a hard enough time keeping up social media accounts for one person. So it would be just too much for me to have to maintain more than one, I believe. I mean, I guess I could not do personal social media, but that would be difficult for me. And plus because we all kind of maintain, we have our own author ones, and then we have the podcast that we maintain. I help with my church one, and I have posted in the wrong ones before, thinking that I am somewhere. And then I post something to my church that makes zero sense for anybody that's following the church. And it's just like, and then I have to go in and delete it and apologize. And it's just kind of embarrassing. So that would be another reason why I wouldn't do, one of the reasons social media would be a problem.
Well, and if you're coming over from another platform, let's say Wattpad, or if you've just been writing since you were knee-high to a grasshopper and everybody in your immediate circle already knows that you are a writer and you know that you're going to get a lot of word-of-mouth sales, you don't want to confuse, the people who are already a fan of your work. So you may want to stick with the name that you've been writing under if you already have a fan base. Jennifer, I think that's kind of where you're at a little bit, right? Like you already have a fan base, so to kind of switch your name.
Well, what I meant with the you already have a fan base, I guess I should be more clear in the outline, is like for me, I think that one of the most important reasons why you should use your name is that you automatically have fans in the way of your family and in your friends. They may not all read your genre, but they are going to support you. And whether or not they are interested in reading, like my brother doesn't read at all, but he tells people that I'm an author, and that's cool, And I've said before that I started my Facebook group by reaching out to friends first. But the other thing is, and at some point we're going to have a podcast about a probably small one about Facebook advertising and kind of like my experience with it so far. But there is a way that you can target audiences that are friends of your friends, so that when that ad shows up in their newsfeed, it'll say Tina, people that are like your page, excuse me. So friends of people that like your page. Well, if all my friends have liked my page, then it'll say Tina Katane likes Jennifer Carl Tong. Then all of Tina's friends see, oh, well, that legitimizes this person. This isn't just some random person. Tina likes this person, and then they check it out. So I think that all in all, that would be a reason for me to want to use my real name. So also, I have another story to tell. My aunt was in the hospital this week, and my book was sitting on her. She has not been able to read it, so I've been reading it to her because she's so ill. And she was reading a little bit by herself, and she put the book down like open so you could see the cover. And she had a male nurse, and he kept looking over there and was working on her and looking over. And finally, he stopped. He was like taking her vitals, and he goes and he points to the book and he goes, "I know her." And my aunt's like, "What?" He's like, "Jenny Carl. I went to high school with her."
Wow.
And which was like, what? Like, who would have ever thought? So then he was talking to the other nurses, and so then everyone found out that I was so word of mouth spreads that way too. You just never know. So
I just have to say that Robin Sardi said sci-fi was invented by a teenage girl. So it's really funny that people want to read it by men.
Really, I've always heard that science fiction well, anyway. I'm not an expert, so I
Is
can't.
she maybe referring to Mary Shelley, or?
I don't know. Also, she's not letting Jamie pick her pen name. So.
Oh, did Jamie say she was going to pick it? I missed that.
No, I think because of the whole
Penelope Muffin.
Oh.
Okay, so it was farther back in the conversation. All right.
Yeah, sorry. I just thought it was funny.
She can use Penelope Muffin Top. I only expect 30% royalty on all the sales. I know it's going to be a hot commodity, so.
If you're writing kids' books, that might be a fun name.
Yeah.
That might be fun.
That would be.
Well, right. I think you had to watch out too if you're gonna be receiving payments for it. Just makes everything a little more complicated. If your name is Jamie Hirschberger and you get checks written to Jamie Hirschberger, you're not going to have any problem cashing them. Just makes everything one step more complicated. So if you're really not into trying to figure out, do I need to change things in my PayPal in order to receive payments and things like that, then that would be a good reason to stay away from a pen name.
I've already had this problem, actually. My books, they are just in the Christian bookstore now. It's not through consignment, but when I started out, I had to be in consignment. And then when I showed up to get my first check from them, it was written to Jennifer Carl Tong, which of course it would be. Luckily for me, it is. My bank had no issues cashing it because it is my name too. It's just not like on my driver's license or any of that. So yeah, so that can be an issue too, for sure. I also had issues when I went to a conference with Rhonda last fall because I had to pay for the conference and my credit card and driver's license, everything says Jennifer Tong. My name tag came as Jennifer Tong. When I went there, everything had that name on it, and I had to handwrite a name tag so that anyone who would associate with my books would understand that this is who I am. I'm not that, so to keep it associated. So.
Right.
I also think too that ultimately, so the last reason we gave, or one of the last reasons that we gave for the reason that people have a pen name is that they want to keep their private life separate. What I've heard throughout the industry and for the few years I've been in it is that it doesn't matter. People are going to find out who you are anyway. Do you guys ever hear the J.K. Rowling story? After she finished the Harry Potter books, she wrote a series of crime novels, like gritty crime novels, I guess. And of course, they wouldn't be for kids. So she wrote under the name Robert Galbraith. And a lawyer, believe it or not, leaked that. And the books were selling okay. They weren't like, of course, the minute they found out it was J.K. Rowling, then through the roof. So it doesn't matter who you are. Like, if people are going to find out, they're going to find out. The best suggestion I can give, whether you use a pen name or not, is that if you are going to be a writer, then I would look at your social media and everything you post, be very careful. Like, what if you became a world famous, million book selling author? Million people are going to be looking at your social media. Are you comfortable with them seeing your daughter's 4th birthday? Are you comfortable with them seeing your husband and you out on a date? If you are, great, then I wouldn't change anything. I'm comfortable with that. I don't give enough information. I never tag locations if my kids are in them, and I don't give enough information that could be traced, but I give enough personal information for people to see them a real person, that they are, feel like they're part, because that's what I enjoy. I love it that this week that Karen Kingsbury shared that she was trying to get her cat to like spinach, and her cat just kept playing with it. I like that. I feel like that she's a real person. She's not just a name on a cover. So that's just that's what I like. So.
Mm-hmm. And the final reason not to change your name is because you already have the perfect Hollywood name that sounds like a famous person already, like Christina Catane.
It really is a good name.
It really is. That is a great name. That's funny because Jennifer Carl Tong is not exactly a famous person name, but it stands out. There's not going to be any other author that's Jennifer Carl Tong. I don't think there'd be any author named Jennifer Carl either, but I don't know. So
well, it just has this cadence to it that sounds, fancy and like a romance author.
It does sound like a romance author.
Does
the whole hyphen thing. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Something about it.
Well, I am very fancy, so that works out. All right.
Oh, man.
So appreciate everyone's patience in the chat, and for everyone continuing to chat. We're going to get to that too. First of all, let's kind of go through our decisions. Tina, I remember when you were back first thinking about what you talked about doing initials. So how did you come to decide on what your name was going to be as an author?
Well, I knew I wanted to use my actual name, but there's so many ways you could use it, right? I could have stayed with Tina because that's what I'm known by. I could have stayed with Christina because that's my actual legal name. Or I could have done my initials. My name's Christina Marie, so I could have done CM. And I just put them, I don't know if it was on my website or I just typed them out, and I thought Christina Catane looked the best to me. So, that's why, there's no deep hidden meaning. It just looked better to me than...
And we've done some mock-ups of book covers for you, and it looks great. It really does look really good on a book cover.
I think it's the nice T sound in the middle of both of the words that really helps with the alliteration of it or whatever. It's really nice.
Yeah, and the hard C in both the beginnings of both of them, I think it's a real great, and it's your natural name, so that's cool. But it is different than what you go by, so that helps give you a little bit of a separation, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, because my brother's name was Christopher, so he was Chris and I was Tina our whole life. So.
That would make sense.
Somebody else go now. That's my wonderful transition.
I know. I was kind of waiting for somebody to throw it to me because that's what I put in the outline so that I didn't have to go last.
How did you decide, Jennifer? Just by the way, it just occurred to me to ask you.
We are so professional. I originally was going to write under Jennifer Carl. That's my maiden name. I kind of felt like it would give some separation from my personal life, my writing life, maybe give some privacy to my children. And that was my plan. And then when one of my children found that out, they said they kind of felt like, are you embarrassed of your name? Like, do you not I think there was part of them that was proud that I was going to be writing. And they wanted to be able, because think about it, if they're at school and what does your mom do? Well, she's an author. Well, that's not your mom because it's not the same name. So I don't know. So it was something slight, but it was enough for me to say, okay, I want my girls to know that they're part of this too. And my husband, obviously, but he and I had already agreed to the Jennifer Carl for the whole separation thing. So, so it's worked out pretty good for me. Honestly, like I said before, that when I do nonfiction, I'm going to write probably just under my real name, Jennifer Tong, so that at least on Amazon in the different booksellers that it's separate, so I don't have confusion from readers, so that they don't get, oh, here's a new book by Jennifer Carl Tong, and they buy it and they're like, this is not what I wanted. This isn't fiction. And it's worked out good because, like I said, that check writing incident, no problem with my bank because I used to be Jennifer Carl and now I'm Jennifer Tong. So Jennifer Carl Tong was totally fine with them. So that it's worked out really well for me. And I was able to keep my Facebook a little bit separated. So plus two, this is like something minor, but when I go into Facebook, I don't want, I'm not confused. I know that when it says Jennifer Tong, that's my personal. When it says Jennifer Carl Tong, that's the business page. So it makes it easier. Where at first, when I was first creating stuff, and it was both were Jennifer, my personal page used to be Jennifer Carl Tong because of college friends and for people to be able to find me. And I had to change that because it was super confusing for me. So
Yeah, I agree with it. When I see Christina Catane, I know that's my author.
Yep.
Yep.
What about you, Jamie? And now you have a true pen name. Tina and I have kind of slightly pen names, but you have a true pen name, and that was a decision that you and your husband made together, correct?
Yeah, oh man. I mean, if you guys have been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you may or may not have picked up on the fact that I have a hard time making decisions. So like this decision I sort of like agonized over. And the problem is you kind of have to decide this before you publish a book. So you kind of don't really even know what you're doing a lot of the time. A lot of the discussion that there is now about, well, it's ridiculous to even have a pen name or whatever, was things I wasn't even aware of, like arguments for and against. A podcast like this one would have been really handy for me to listen to back then.
And I totally agree, because that's why I thought this was important for us to cover, because I could have just written Barbara back, but I thought this is really good stuff because I was the same way as you. I didn't know when I first started, and we have been talking for the past few months about building your platform and when you need to start that. So even before you publish, you need to have this decision, because you don't want to build a platform under a name and then realize you don't want to use that name. So yeah,
Right.
So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, no pressure or anything,
right?
But it really,
right.
It's really a big deal. So, okay, so Nichols is my maiden name, and so the bottom line was I knew I was a multiple genre writer, and so originally I thought I was going to have different pen names for the different genres that I was going to write in. I have since evolved in my thinking about that, because of just the nature of the industry changing and reading around that it's okay to possibly hop around genres. I mean, unless you're really making a big departure, like now you're doing, rated R stuff, which I would never do. Anyway, unless you're making a really huge departure, it's kind of good for people to go to your website and see, oh, look, this same writer whose work I like also writes Westerns or whatever. Okay, so anyway, there's just a different school of thought than I thought. But when I was first starting out, I thought my Moxie series would be under a different name than my Somerville sagas. I thought I would have several pen names, which I didn't even think about what that would mean for social media. Anyway, I talked to my husband about it. What should I do? What should I do? And we both just agreed that Hirschberger is kind of like, what was the name of that author? Was it Hamburger? Was it Hershey Bar?
It's not that far off of Higginbottom.
Yeah. And this is kind of funny. My sister married somebody. Freigruber is that last name. So my sister married a Freigruber, and I married a Hirschberger. So whenever my little sister has a new boyfriend, we're always like, "What's his last name?" Because it has to be weird, or he's not going to be the one. Anyway, so I mean, not to really come down harshly on my husband's last name. I love it. I love him. But this was him saying it. This was him like, I'm in the bookstore trying to remember the name of that new author, and Nichols. Oh, I can remember that, right? And I'll walk right over to the shelf and I'll find it. And so that was great. So that was basically why. And it ended up to be sort of a second blessing, I guess, because J.R. Nichols is my dad, really. So it's just kind of neat that I feel like, oh, my dad gets to see his name printed on a book. I just think that's kind of fun. He doesn't have any sons. And so anyway, that was just sort of a bonus reason. But that's the long, convoluted answer as to why I have this pen name. I'm obviously not being secretive. Obviously, yep, J.R. Nichols is me. So it's not like I'm trying to hide my identity like Clark Kent or something like that. It was just a decision I had to make in the beginning, and now I'm sticking with it. I see no reason to convert everything. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but
I think it's so cool. I had no idea about your dad.
Yeah, his name is James Richard, and I'm his namesake.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were hoping for a boy. They had my sister, and then I came, but I still got the name. And then my little sister came along sometime after. She was named after my grandmother.
That's awesome.
I was hoping for a girl, and I named my son Christopher. So there you go.
Aww.
All right. So here it was. Now let's go to chat and see what people are saying in chat. Maria says, I've used a pen name, as you can see from the chat. Yes, we knew that. I know Maria's real name, and I have to be careful because sometimes I almost even live call her by the wrong name. I have to make sure I read it. Let's see. She says, I chose to use a pen name because one, at the time, I wasn't sure how good my writing was.
Aw, yeah.
That makes me sad, actually, that people would, just,
Hide. I feel like
yes,
hide.
yeah. If God
Yeah.
gives you your story, just there, you will have an audience. You will have an audience if God has given you the gift and the story and the desire to do this. And number two, I wanted the distance between my writing and my personal life, especially when I kept my pen name private,
Yeah.
which she just recently came out with it, that what her pen name was, like told people that, well, this is actually me. So she said neither her married name nor her maiden name is common, really, though. Okay. I
Mm.
really like Maria's first name, but of course it's the name of one of my children too. So Robin says, I'm planning on using a pen name because I want to keep genres separate. All are clean, but historical fiction and modern adventure are so different. I don't want the overlap. I actually considered this too. The fact that you ladies know that I've been working on some contemporary novels too, and wondered if like I would have a problem with the crossover. But I've been asking my readership, my fans, and in my group, and people that I meet in public, and they're like, if it's good Christian romance, I don't care if it was set in the 40s or if it was set in the future. I just want it. So
I know, but and the Robin's concern is exactly the concern I had, because if I would have been still writing, like you're still writing romance, it's still the same
yes,
genre, but when
yes.
you're hopping around in the genres, I mean, that's kind of where I was feeling, Robin. So that was totally why I initially made the decision to have a pen name at all. And
Right.
so I get that.
But what I'm in agreement with you about readers. First of all, like I just said a minute ago, you will find your readers. There are readers like me that pretty much stick with one genre, enjoy that genre, and there's plenty to feed me. So I don't really get outside of it very often. But then there are those readers that want to read all different kinds of stuff. So that's who your readership is going to be. And
Yeah, me
so,
too.
yeah.
I want good writing. I could really care less about the genre. I'm in the middle of a series right now that I really just don't even like, but I know it's going to be clean. You know, there's no like bedroom stuff, there's no swearing. So I know what I'm going to get. So if I found other books by this author, I would imagine that I was going to get the same thing, and I would be happy because the quality of the writing is also what I appreciate. So to me, it wouldn't make a difference. It's really a throw of the dice, isn't it? It's a gamble. And the good news is, as indie authors, we get to make the decision.
Yes.
If you had a publisher or an agent, they would tell you you're going to publish under whatever name. I wonder if that's a problem that we lost Jennifer because she's in charge. Uh-oh, here she is.
No, the problem is I was trying to mute my mic because I needed to cough and I hit the wrong button. Sorry.
I'm glad you didn't go away.
Hashtag professional.
We had a momentary look
Deer in the headlights
across our faces. Yeah, so we're glad that you're still here.
So I was just wanting to say that my favorite author, Tosca Lee, started out writing like Bible stories. So she wrote like Hava, which is the story of Eve, from the story of creation from Eve's point of view. And then she moved into high fantasy, and now she's writing dystopian. And I don't care because I just love her writing. She's a great writer, and I love all her stuff. So
Barb B says sometimes a pen name works when two are collaborating.
Oh.
So that's something that Barb and her daughter are considering with what they're writing.
She knows that. Yes.
All right. So Barbara Worley said, that's the wrong one. I like that one. Good point, Jennifer. I was clicking the wrong one. Sorry. She says, that's kind of my concern. I feel I should keep a distance between writer life and everyday life. So some people feel that way. I feel like for me, the authors I like to know that they're real people. That's why we said in one of our social media building your platform episodes, you should use a real picture of yourself. And Jamie talked about, which I really appreciate, she talked about God made us and that we are beautiful and that we do not need to get caught up in what the world says is beauty, but something that's real helps people to connect with you. Because think about it, the people that are reading my books are not beautiful. They are just like us. They are just normal people, and they don't want some sort of like fake, like I could go to Glamour Shots and make myself look all, 85 and, but that's not real, so
Well, the
I thought you
Glamour
said
shots.
85, and I was just like, what?
No, I meant 80s fine.
85,
Yeah,
yeah.
I understood it afterwards, but at first I thought you said make yourself look 85.
Can I just say to Barbara then, if you're going to choose a pen name, just be careful to pick something that you would like to be called. So, like, if you don't want to be called Barbie, Barbara, then don't pick Barbie, Barbie Worcester or whatever you might do. Make sure that you don't care if people are calling you whatever name that you pick, because that's what interviewers are going to do, etc. So, and make sure it's a name that you'll answer to. Imagine walking down the hallway and someone's yelling Barbie, Barbie, and you have no idea they're talking to you. So that's just something to think about for when you're famous.
Maria says, if you are private about your pen name, then the real life marketing opportunities was the hardest thing for me. That was one of the main reasons I went public, because I didn't have that opportunity. That's very, very true, because you will make sales in person. You will make sales for people at signings or just in random conversation with people. So that's a really good point. Robin says, one thing with using your real name and all your friends and family start buying your books, but they don't read your genre usually, they can ruin your also bots. That's true. That is very true. So I had that at the very beginning, but what I found is the longer I publish, the more books I sell, that kind of goes down.
Wait,
So,
can we pause and rewind? Because I'm sure Barbara Woolley, is that her name, has no idea what an also bot is, since she's just very new to this stage of publishing. Can we just talk briefly on what is an also bot?
yes, and it has changed slightly. Amazon has changed it a little bit. So what an also bot is when somebody goes and buys my book. Then when somebody else goes and sees my book, it'll say, they'll look at the book, and then below it, it'll say people also bought, and then it'll be all these other books. When I first started selling my very first book, some of my also boughts were a little on the racy side. So somebody who bought my books was also buying other kinds of romance, and there's nothing you can do about your also bots. However, I was probably showing up in those racy people's also bots as well, and I'm okay with that because I spread the gospel with my book, so they probably need to hear it.
So please explain why I would care if a Makita power drill was an also bot on my book page. Why do I care that my also bot would be full of irrelevant things?
Well, you want people who are going to read your genre to find you. So if somebody reads racy romance and then I'm their also bot and they click on there and they realize that I'm Christian romance, they're not going to buy me. We want, and for advertising purposes, we want to get linked to the right readers. Mm-hmm. So that's
you're saying it's more a concern of where your book shows up, not what shows up on your book's page.
So somebody who's buying that drill is probably a guy.
Right, and not going to buy a Christian
probably
romance.
Not going to buy Christian romance written by Jennifer Carlton.
So if that shows up on my also bot, does that mean I'm showing up on that item's also bot? Is that what that means? Like
maybe the algorithms are not published. They do not tell us exactly how it works.
Gotcha.
But that's kind of been what I've seen. So. All right. So Barbara says, I already have an irrational fear of telling friends and family that I'm writing because of the skeptical stare. Oh, you need to go back and watch. What episode was that, ladies, that we talked about that the people that are going to love you are going to love you. And you just need to, It was one of our building your platform.
I can look for it later and post it like on the Twitter or something.
Just know from the bottom of our hearts, Barbara, that again, I'll say it. If God gave you your stories, if you have this desire to write, then God will, there will be an audience out there. So, and the people that love you are going to love you. And the people that don't, you can't do anything about it. So you need to focus on those that love you.
If you have pragmatic family members who are like, it's not a career choice unless it's bringing in 6 figures or something, you will get a skeptical stare. And you're just going to have to learn to own it, which I'm kind of talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you, because my husband will tell everybody I'm a writer all day long. But even though I've actually published, I still am reluctant to be like, well, I'm a writer, because it's not an income that is replacing a part-time job. And so I almost feel like some kind of a poser. But the fact of the matter is I am a writer. I am a published author, and you will be too. And to tarnation with these people who are going to give you a skeptical stare because you're a writer. Claim it.
Right. And it won't be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tina.
I really like the saying that says, "What other people think about me is none of my business."
Yay.
Mhm. And it won't be just your writing that people are going to give you skeptical stares for.
That's true.
I have been judged because I've chosen to be a self-published author. I can't tell you how many people think that I can't get a contract with a publishing house. And you ladies have read my writing. I've read yours. I could get a contract with a publishing house. I don't want one. I don't want to share the royalties. Sorry. But people that don't write, people in the writing community get it. People that don't write are going to judge you because they think they have a certain image of what being a writer is and they don't know.
They
So-
think it's vanity publishing.
Mhm.
I have a friend who's a published author, and she just won an award at this writing conference that she went to this
Oh,
weekend.
good for her.
And she said, "You should have come because I could have introduced you to so and so and so and so and so and so, and they would have snatched you right up."
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so I just was gracious, and I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you reading," because she got to get up and read part of her book to the
Oh,
audience. But I didn't say, "Well, I don't want them to snatch me up. I want to self-publish." I just let that go. But yeah, you run into that.
Mm-hmm. Maria says, Barbara, I so relate to that. That was me for the longest time. Helping or having that protection distance from your life can be super helpful until you grow in confidence. As an author. So maybe that's an option if you think that you need that time to grow, then, so.
yeah. And I think that maybe it would be interesting if Maria has a blog post to like her decision to change and what that process has been like. Barbara might like to read that.
Oh, if it's helpful, I have a blog post I wrote in May about why I have a pen name and why I went public with it.
Wow, how did you know?
She didn't. I could tell by her face that she hadn't seen that. I can tweet the podcast later. That would be great if you would do that, Maria, and we'll retweet it. Tag us in it, okay? And we'll retweet it. So
Great.
Maria also says that she has a lot more confidence with her writing than she used to. She never dreamed she'd be published. I think that was mainly due to my personality. I think a lot of people struggle with that as writers because a lot of writers are introverts. And so we're not used to be putting ourselves out there. So
it's art. It's your art, and art is a very personal thing. And again, when somebody, it's like saying your baby is ugly. If someone is critical of your art, you have to develop the willingness to go through a little bit of that.
Right. Just flipping through here to see, because I know we need to hurry up. Okay, this is a good point. Maria says, I do get what you were saying, but not wanting to use your real picture doesn't necessarily mean that you're trying to hide or you're not happy with how got me. Very true. And I'm sorry if I made it seem like that. I'm just encouraging you, if that is how you're feeling, if a person is feeling that way, that to don't feel that way. And that encourage you that I think if you were to look at or put some sort of like poll out there, you would see that people just really want to see us as real people because we're self-published. That's the other thing too. Either I know some of you are with small publishers and then some of us are self-published. Either way, people just want to know that we're real and can relate to us. Okay.
Barbara, what you wish for.
I'm okay with Barbara, which is considering the last name. There are a lot of Worleys out there. That's true. But I don't know if there's a Barbara Worley that is a writer. And I think it sounds like a great mystery writer name for me. So
the only Worley I can think of is Joanne Worley. And she was like a comedian. So I don't find that to be a super common last name.
Right. Okay, so there's a whole lot more in there. So if anybody's watching this, you're going to want to go through and read the chat because there's lots of conversation today, but we do have to move on. But real quick before we do, just a final note, ladies, if you had to do it all over again, would you do pen name or not do pen name? And what would you suggest to those listening? Jamie?
I don't know. If I had it to do all over again, I might still pick the pen name. The Hirschberger point that my husband made was a pretty good one. And since it's his name, I almost feel like if there's anybody who would say, oh, it'll be fine, it would be him. But he was pretty like, yeah, you need something different. So
what about you, Tina?
Yeah, I would stick with what I got.
I would too. I would encourage, of course, I just kind of have this thing. I feel like you should need to be as real as possible, if possible, but everyone is individual. You got to do what's right for you. So Barbara, thank you for your question. I hope that we didn't make it more confusing for you. So if you have any other questions, reach out to us. Anyone else watching this, please feel free to email us. You can go to our website at christianindiewriters.net, and there's a way to contact us there. You can also follow us on social media and tweet or message us on Instagram, and we are generally pretty quick to respond, but my life has been kind of chaos lately. So we'd love to hear from you if you have any questions or have any ideas for any future podcasts.
Yeah, we love getting ideas for podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
All
want
right.
to serve
That's
you. with
very,
the
very
information you
helpful to
want.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a mission for us. Or this is a ministry. This is not just us, trying to be podcasters, I guess. I don't know. All
Yeah.
right. This is the time where we do our feeding of the backs, meaning feedback time. What we do before each episode is we do a quick write, a sprint for 15 minutes using 5 words. Today was 5 words. Sometimes we use other things. And we don't edit. We don't have time to look at it again. We just share it raw. So the feedback that we're going to give is going to be just positive, encouraging feedback. And today I'm gonna ship it to you, Tina, so you can share the words and read your piece first.
Oh, okay. The words were catalog, beautiful, particle, sphere, and pioneer. I did not use them all because I'm sticking with writing in my world that my novel is in, and some of those words don't work very well in the future where there is no technology. So here we go. Angelica wondered what it would be like to be a pioneer in this beautiful wilderness. Were they in awe of the majesty of it all, or were they terrified? Perhaps, like Angelica, it was an equal mix of awe at the handiwork of God and terror of the many dangers and unknowns that could take a person's life in an instant. She absent-mindedly rubbed her hip. The bruise had turned from angry purple and black to a sickly-looking yellow and green. It didn't ache so much anymore, but it itched, and made her want to pull down her breeches and rub it on the rough bark of a tree the way the bears do. Wouldn't that be a funny sight? As she came to the top of a rise, she looked back across the landscape. There was no sign of anybody following, no movement among the sparse trees, no Petra. Somewhere deep inside, a tiny particle of her heart was disappointed. Had he simply given her up for dead and gone back home? Nah, not Petra. He would eventually find a way across the ravine, and one day she would turn back and see him coming.
Ah.
Come on, boy. Chugiak trotted back from where he had been investigating the salmonberry bushes and tasting their fruits. The white fur around his mouth was stained with them. A person who didn't know might mistake the stain for the remains of a fish dinner. Soon the forest grew more dense, and Angelica found herself following yet another ravine. The ledge she walked beside looked down on a creek bed filled with rocks and dead branches. A small trickle of water wound its way through the debris. She imagined earlier in the spring, when the snow first melted, it was much bigger, bounding over the rocks in sprays of white foam and carrying the branches along in its current. The wind was blowing out of the south and carried with it the smell and warmth of the coming summer. What would her summer look like? It certainly wouldn't be anything like her summers as a child. She smiled as she thought about being on the river in her kayak, racing Petra to the boundary tree. 3, 2, 1.
How is that not edited?
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
So good. Oh,
Tina, you have really got inside of Angelica's head, and it really the parts that we felt were missing from the novel. You are like nailing it now in these little sprints, like before, like just instead of saying, like I felt like the relationship between Petra and Angelica in your very first draft that was like stilted. Like I did not feel like there was anything there, and now it's just like the whole thing, her looking back, and that, so good.
He will find a way across the ravine, and someday she will turn. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's totally everything we always wanted those chapters to be. I'm so glad that you found a way to be Angelica for us. I don't even know, but she is like real to me. She is someone, as a younger person, I would have wished that I could be, because I want to be brave enough to go on this adventure. I want to know that I have this love that is pursuing me. Like, it's just so good. And I can't believe that's a 15-minute sprint, unedited.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I lost my thought.
Sorry.
No.
I talked a lot.
No, it wasn't at all that. It was just it's not a romance, and I get that. So like I always would hate to like say that like the things about the relationship, because I didn't want to come off as I'm trying to turn you into a romance novelist, because that's not at all. You're nailing it. You're giving us just enough emotions for it to feel authentic. And then moving on with the story, like it's perfect. So happy for you.
Yeah, and I don't know if you recognize the allegory of her being pursued. So she's being pursued by a greater love also all throughout this book. And so you are really doing that whole like Tolkien Lewis thing that we've talked about in private conversations. And I just love this. I love the dog. I mean, I don't have a bad thing to say about this, even if we were supposed to give meat.
Thank you. You guys are awesome.
You're awesome.
All right, Jennifer, did you want to follow that, or just so that it's not also tossing to you after, or do I have to follow that?
No, I will follow it, though this is not that great, but it's kind of a little raw for me. So this is not narrative nonfiction. This is not like creative nonfiction, but it like will feel like it because it just feels like it's kind of coming from where I'm at in life right now. So, okay. Chloe flipped through the catalog, eyes gleaming at every single page. Look, Mom, isn't she beautiful? I looked up from my laptop at the picture of the doll, decked out in what was supposed to be authentic Pioneer clothing and accessories. She's really cute, I said before turning my attention back to the draft I was working on. The American Girl doll catalog was a favorite of my girls, especially my Chloe. Where Barbie had filled my days with imaginative play as a child, American Girl dolls were the toy of choice for pretend play for my girls. However, where a Barbie costs less than $20, these dolls came in over $100. The only reason my children had any were because they had grandparents and a great aunt who doted on them. I tried to concentrate on what I was writing, but couldn't seem to focus. I leaned back in my chair and stretched my arms over my head. It was then that I noticed that my child, who only moments ago gleamed as she flipped quickly through the pages, now sat solemn, staring at one page. I rose from my desk and sat next to her on the couch. She immediately cuddled up next to me. What's the matter, Cuttlebug? I was just thinking about Auntie. Do you think she'll be here for Christmas? I sighed and pulled her onto my lap. The doctors haven't given us any timeline, baby, but I hope she is with us a long time. Why? Because she loves American Girl dolls, too. I smiled and laid my cheek on the top of her head. My aunt loved the dolls because they made my girls happy. Chloe couldn't see that. Were you hoping she'd buy you another one for Christmas? I asked. Chloe shifted and looked up at me, brown eyes squinted. No, Mom, I wanted to buy one for her. She's been so sick I thought it might make her feel better. My throat constricted as I tried to swallow down the tears that fought hard to surface. I picked the catalog up off her lap. Well, let's see which one you think Auntie would like. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that's so good.
It's really good.
Tugging at the heartstring.
It felt like therapy.
It felt like therapy to write it.
Yeah.
So this didn't actually happen, but there's so much truth in it. The American Girl doll thing, my parents and my aunt funding the whole thing.
So then isn't it exactly creative nonfiction? I mean, isn't that what creative nonfiction is, to where you take the reality and you kind of invent a little story to make the feelings work? I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's more along creative nonfiction. You have to have it's actually the scene has to be real. And then you creatively, but so the scene is not real. This did not happen, other than the fact that Chloe and all my girls flip through that magazine a lot. Like when it comes in the mail, which it comes a lot, they just spend hours just looking at it and looking at the accessories and just enjoying just looking at it. And the fact that my aunt is sick and we don't know about Christmas, all that stuff is just very real. So yeah, so that's what I wrote. That's where I am today. So.
Well, it was a really nice piece of writing. It really was.
Thank you.
It's very sad.
All right, let's move on to yours, Jamie. I'm ready.
It's not going to cheer anybody up.
Oh, sorry.
If you're looking for comic relief, you won't find it here. Sorry. All right, here we go. I remember the moment my life changed forever. We were behind the souvenir store, and I was smiling at my children, busy with cones and dishes full of ice cream. I turned and leaned against the wooden fence that ran the perimeter of the patio and caught my breath as I apprehended the view. The sun was setting behind Lake Sumter, throwing sherbet-colored hues across the sky. As often happened when I witnessed a particularly beautiful example of God's handiwork, I began to silently wax poetic about the nature of our Creator. I was slipping deeper into my solo episode of praise and worship when my phone rang. Jeannie, it was my husband's voice. What's happened? Max didn't call me during business hours. He's gone. My husband did not have to tell me who he was. His father had been living in hospice for the past 6 weeks. You okay? I don't know. I allowed the silence, somehow sacred, to stretch between us. As I let my husband sort through his feelings in silence, I stared at the particles of dust dancing in the last light of the sun over the lake. God, you are the creator of those particles, I thought. God, you are the creator of my husband and his father. He's in good hands, my husband said, as though reading my thoughts. I have a tendency to talk too much, so I just replied in a way I knew he would understand as encouraging assent. Once again, I let the silence slide in. I heard my husband sniffle. He's crying, I thought. Mama, who's on the phone? Our oldest, my father-in-law's namesake and ever intuitive, had sidled up to me and slid his arm around my shoulders. 3, 2, 1.
Always
Wow.
great, Jamie. Your ability to create characters in 15 minutes, like characters that you feel like it's just like, is it just amazing?
For sure.
Well, I appreciate that. And I went many different directions with this prompt, and I really was trying to kind of dig myself out of the way that I was feeling, that this is just what had to come out. It's just been that kind of a day, so.
I think that's a really poignant remark though too, because as I started the episode off with the fact that I've really not been writing, I've not been in a place that I can, and I don't mean physically, I mean like emotionally, mentally. Like, we as creatives are so ruled by our emotions, and we are the group that we preach, get your fanny in the seat and write, because that's what's going to happen. You can't wait for inspiration. But then there are times that you just can't, which is kind of where I'm at right now. So I think that, like, today we all are kind of in a place that I think that I'm surprised we all didn't write really sad stuff. So yeah, but it was good. Great
Well, I
writing.
think we kind of did, didn't we?
Oh yeah, yours was sad, but like yours had hope.
Sensitive.
Yeah, yours has hope because we know that it's not the end, right? We know it. So. All right.
Anyway, I just love both of you guys writing. Everything you write, I just love it. So.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, we also like to hear everybody else's sprints. So if anybody takes 15 minutes to write on our sprint words, tag us, share, let us know so that we can read it.
Absolutely. All right, ladies. We are over time, and I'm not trying to be funny, but do you think we could skip the feeding of the backs this week, or do you think it's important if we do it?
Oh, please.
You mean accountability?
The accountability. Because we don't have Rhonda here. We all know I've already shared my accountability. Like, it's just non-existent. So it's up to you ladies whether we want to do that or if we want to just like thank everyone. And so.
Well, Tina, you missed last week when we praised you because I know you worked through some really hard stuff the week before. So I just wanted to say to your virtual face, good job.
Well, I was in the chat. I heard you. So
oh, awesome.
Thanks.
And I will just give this good news that I've actually decided on my opening of my book. And I'm really making some good progress. So I just want to share that I have that praise. And then we can skip the rest because I know we're over.
That's awesome. Very, very happy for you. It's so great when you're like struggling with something and then you just get past that hurdle, because then you just feel like you can just do anything.
And
so you hit the next hurdle.
Yes, I just know that this is the first chapter of a 3-book series, and it has kind of just been weighing on me of like, if people don't like this, they're just going to not read any of it. And I'm like, well, then I guess they're going to miss out. So too bad, so sad. Here is my first chapter. Exactly. Like it or lump it. And so, yeah.
Agree.
I'm sure we'll all like it, judging by history.
And plus, we've read a little bit of it. It's great.
Awesome.
It is really great. So, all right. Well, thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all of you guys that were in chat today. Again, if you have any more questions or any ideas for us, please shoot us an email or a message, and we will see what we can do. So that concludes the Christian Indie Writers podcast. So until next week, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.